everyone, and welcome back to another video. So I haven't made a video on Paul and Morgan in the longest time, and I'm actually okay with that. I haven't missed it, I'll be honest. They just kind of like haven't really been on my radar for a while, and the stuff I have seen about them has been in like the fundy subreddits and stuff, and it's all to do with things like infertility stuff and then pregnancy and stuff like that, and that like it doesn't interest me, and I don't really think it's my business, and I'm not gonna comment on that stuff because, you know, that's their life and they can do what they want and stuff. As a child-free woman, I'm never going to understand what they're going through, so I'm not going to comment on someone else's pregnancy or fertility treatments or anything like that. However, it seems that they don't extend the same courtesy in the other direction. They're absolutely okay talking about child-free people and calling us out and blah 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 and saying we're all silly and selfish, and yeah, it was a lot, wasn't it, Pickle? It was a lot. So this all started when recently the Pope made a bunch of statements calling child-free people with pets selfish, and I was considering making a video on his stuff alone, but then Paul and Morgan came out with their video as well, and I was like, you know what, we're just gonna cover them both in one video. Aren't we, Beast? Hello, baby. We all know that you're the star. You don't need to prove it. It's okay. So Paul and Morgan's video opens with a quick recap of everything the Pope said and his statement and all of that good stuff. Basically what he said was, today we see a form of selfishness. We see that some people do not want to have a child. Sometimes they have one and that's it, but they have dogs and cats to take the place of children. He went on to claim that pet keeping was a denial of fatherhood and motherhood and diminishes us, takes away our humanity. The consequence was that civilization grows old without humanity because we lose the richness of fatherhood and motherhood, and it is the country that suffers. To which I thoroughly disagree. There's nothing wrong or selfish about caring for another living being just because they don't happen to be human. You know, regardless of the species, caring for someone else is one of the least selfish things you can do. It is completely ridiculous to think otherwise. However, I would argue that some people have children for selfish reasons, not don't have them. You know, the people who have kids to try and save a relationship, or so they have someone to look after them when they're old. I think they're selfish reasons to have kids. I also don't think it's selfish at all for a person to say and acknowledge that, like, I won't bring life into this world unless I know I'm actually capable of looking after it. I don't see how anyone can hear that statement and think it's selfish. It's absolutely not selfish to say something like, I don't think I could provide a child with everything it needs, therefore I won't make one, which has to go without. Knowing your own needs and wants and abilities and limitations and dedicating your life to looking after yourself or a partner or a pet or other living creatures or beings or other people is not a selfish thing to do. It's actually a really, really responsible way to live your life. Understanding what it actually takes to give birth to a baby or raise a child, and knowing that you're not capable of that, and so deciding not to do it, is not in any way selfish, and I don't understand the people who say that it is. I really, really don't. I do, however, believe it's selfish to force someone into pregnancy and child rearing when they don't want it. I think it's a horrible stance, and I will absolutely not change my mind on that ever. The Pope then went on to say, through what I can only assume is naivety, having a child is always a risk, but there is more risk in not having a child, which I think is perhaps the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If you don't have a kid, the risk is, oh, maybe I'll regret this later. And that is it. And let's be honest, you can rectify that by maybe like adopting later in life or working with kids or whatever. But if you do have a kid, the risks are insanely huge. You can risk that you'll regret having that kid, and then your life is ruined, the kid's life is ruined, your partner's life is ruined, many lives are ruined, plus it's a huge burden on, like, you know, taxes and social care and everything like that and whatever. There's a huge risk that pregnancy absolutely destroys your body. There's the risk that you'll get ill or die during childbirth. There's the risk that the child is going to drain all your financial resources and you'll end up living in poverty. There's risk that you'll be unable to properly care for your child. There's the risk that the child is going to grow up, like I say, in poverty or without proper care, or is abused or has emotional issues. There's the risk that you just won't bond with your child and then the kid is going to grow up to have all kinds of emotional issues. There are a lot of risks if you choose to have a kid without really thinking it through. The risks for having children are way bigger than the risks for not. To say otherwise is ridiculous. There's no other word for it. I would much rather risk regretting not having kids than risk regretting having them. But that said, I don't think I'm going to regret it at all. I know I don't want them. I've never wanted them. Yeah, and the older I've got, the more clearer that's got. For a while, like, I was kind of compromising back when I was with Dan, and, you know, he he sort of wanted them, and we're like, well, wait and see when we get to 30 and maybe, and then the closer 30 got, the more I was like, nope, no, I can't go through with this, which was honestly one of the reasons I broke up with him, because I know I don't want kids, and I'd much rather be single without kids than in a relationship with them. Anyway, with all this in mind, let's take a look at Paul and Morgan's response to all of this.
We have a dog. We love Squishy. She's the best. We treat her like a little baby sometimes. But I know people who actually treat their dogs like human being babies. Like doggy daycare because they don't want them to be alone while they're at work. Taking them everywhere on vacations, everywhere, whatever, feeding them human food, like just, whatever. And I think and I know some couples who are younger who have decided that like this is enough for them, just having dogs. And to me, that's sad and worrisome and just so ridiculous. So I see why the Pope is saying this.
I don't understand what is sad and worrisome about this. It's just bizarre to me. And again, like, what I've always said about Paul and Morgan in the past is that they don't seem to understand that other people are different to them. There's no, like, theory of mind here. They don't understand that other people aren't them. They don't understand that other people have different brains. Other people want different things out of life and have different motivations and want different things. Like, Paul and Morgan are less neurologically advanced than the average octopus, let's be honest. I don't understand how you can see someone who is content and happy and fulfilled and living the life they want and say, ooh, that's sad and worrisome. They're not harming anyone. They're in fact helping another living creature by having a little animal in your home. Hello, Angel. Hello. You come along just in time, don't you? Oh, careful. You always come along just in time, don't you? Yes. Hi. Yeah, it's so... I don't know if it's narrow-minded. I don't know if it's naivety. I don't know if it's stupidity. I don't know if it's just like pure selfishness, but I would not want to be Paul and Morgan's friend at all. Like, not when you have attitudes like this. It's so condescending. It's rude. Anyway, they go on. Oh, excuse me.
I was surprised to see pretty quick a number of comments, even people saying like, I normally agree with the Pope, but I disagree with him saying this. He shouldn't have said this, which is funny because I feel like Morgan and I are completely the opposite. Normally, we're not in agreement, but then to see this, it's kudos. That's what I said, kudos. I mean, other than just people saying, I just don't agree, don't think he should have said it. Couples should not feel pressure to have kids, which it's an interesting position. I feel like biblically there's more precedence, there's more of an encouragement and a spurring couples on to have kids. Like that seems, and we can quote several different scripture verses. And then someone left this comment, so I actually shared it on my Instagram. I thought this kind of comment was indicative of, sadly, I'm just going to say sadly because I do think it's sad, but indicative of a growing number of young people that would oppose the Pope's sentiments here.
They say, this is so interesting because I have felt that God is calling us to have more pets and fewer children because of overpopulation and dwindling resources, calling us to ensure that we are loving God's earth and God's creatures.
I'll be honest, I actually felt like that might be satire at first, but it's not.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me not to laugh at, I've been feeling like God is calling us all to have more pets and less kids.
Again, this is so rude and thoughtless. Like, that's all I have in my notes, just the words rude and thoughtless. But this isn't just me ranting about them being rude. They also start kind of, they spread misinformation. Like, listen to this whole part here.
This whole overpopulation thing is a myth, in my opinion.
Well, Morgan, sadly, the world doesn't change just because you have an opinion. The amount of resources that we have available to us and the current rate of which we're using them does suggest we are, in fact, overpopulated. Sure, in some countries the birth rate is falling, but in others it isn't. And we also have to take into account the fact that people are living longer, people have longer life expectancies, infant mortality rates are a lot lower, general mortality rates are a lot lower. And when you take all this into account and the amount of resources that we're using and the fact that we're using more natural resources now than we ever were in the past, we are overpopulated and we are going to run out of resources and we are damaging the planet. Hopefully not beyond repair, but potentially. This isn't a myth, not by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that Paul and Morgan can sit here and just laugh about something as genuinely concerning as climate change just speaks volumes to me. It's worrying, it's selfish, it's just sad and worrying. Yeah, sorry, I joke, but it is. This is truly what is selfish. They aren't thinking about anyone but themselves. They aren't thinking about the long-term consequences of their actions. They aren't thinking about future generations. They're not thinking about anyone else's kids. They're not thinking about anyone else's livelihood. They're not thinking about anyone else's life and quality of life. They're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking about the planet. They're not thinking about other species. It is selfish, pure selfishness. And then they play that ridiculous clip from Elon Musk saying how, oh, we need to have more babies and that the real threat is the aging population. And then they're like, well, Elon Musk's smart, so if he says it, it must be true. Ha 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 ha. Like, no. It's a gross oversimplification, and he's wrong.
And let's play this video of Elon Musk really quick, because that goes right along with just the whole overpopulation lie / myth / thing that people are believing.
But yeah, like there's strictly the scientific response to her statement, which that's a big topic that we could talk about for a long time, and we're not experts, but here is someone who we would both consider very smart.
Yeah.
Our very own Elon Musk on the topic.
I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.
Yeah.
Mark his words.
Mark his words. Yeah, I think that that's very interesting. I appreciate him being bold and saying that, because you do hear from mainstream media, there are too many people on this planet. We're destroying the planet because we're having too many babies, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at the numbers, that's not the truth. And, you know, I think this just goes right along with people who are like, we're not in Adam and Eve's time. We don't have to be fruitful and multiply. Well, again, like, overpopulation is not a thing, and people need to chill out with that.
Just having more babies will not solve environmental problems. In fact, they'll make things worse. His whole argument relies on the fact that he's saying, well, actually, the problem is that people are living longer and they're the ones using more resources. So basically, the only way that his solution of having more babies works is if we cull a bunch of people after they reach a certain age. Oh, you're over 50, dead. Let's have more babies to replace them. That's the only way Elon Musk's argument works in practice. And the fact they're just agreeing with him shows that they don't actually understand anything that they're talking about. It's a real issue. It's not just about how many people are being born. It's about how many people are currently alive, how many resources are they using, what resources are they using. We're talking about food consumption, energy consumption. We need to figure out how to take care of the people who are currently alive before we start thinking about having even more babies and bringing more people into the world and increasing population size even more. We need to start undoing some of the environmental damage that we've already done. A hole in the ozone layer is a problem. Deforestation, huge, huge problem. The amount of food we waste, huge problem. And oh god, there's so much is an issue. The fact that they think this whole topic can be just boiled down to, well, overpopulation's a myth, just have more babies, is ridiculous. The fact that they're saying that, they're oversimplifying this, and then sitting there laughing about it is absolutely repulsive. Both Elon Musk and Paul and Morgan here are being incredibly narrow-minded, short-sighted, and naive. And I'm gonna say it again, selfish.
I think we create this idea that God loves pets and animals more than he loves humans, and that's just not true at all. If that were true, there'd be a Bible for the animals to read.
Well, from the beginning it says that, Adam, like man, is created to be above the animals, fill the earth, subdue the earth, rule over the animals.
Yeah.
I just have no words for this. I'm absolutely shocked. The level of like, what would you call it? Like species elitism here is kind of vile, I'll be honest. Like, I know this is different for me because I'm an atheist, so I'm not like looking to the Bible for guidance. I'm just like trying to live my life in the best way I can to help as many people as possible. But I will say, with my whole heart, I love Kyra more than any human in the world. And I'm not ashamed of that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't love her less because she's a different species to me. I love her because of who she is as a person. She is my best friend, my family, my entire world, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. She is not lesser than me in any way because she's a different species. I'm not better than her in any way because I'm a different species. That's not how it works. I think I spoke about this briefly in my last video, but I think it's, again, I'm going to keep going back to this word selfish. It feels appropriate for everything I'm talking about here, but it feels so selfish to assume that humans are somehow superior to all other living species on Earth just because reasons. It's really bizarre to me. Just love living things for who they are as individuals. That's absolutely okay. To me, I love Kyra for who she is and for how she treats me and how much fun we have together, and because she's my family, not because of or despite of her species. And I also extend this same kind of like feeling to humans as well. Like, I love people for who they are and what they mean to me, not because of how much DNA we share. I don't feel more for someone because we happen to have like a shared ancestor. I don't feel more for someone because we're like blood relatives. I don't feel more for someone just because we share more DNA than I do with someone else. I love people for who they are and how they treat me regardless of their genetics. That's just how it works for me. I don't like prioritize people in my life based on how much DNA I share with them, and that goes for all species. I prioritize them based on what they mean to me. Anyway, they're going to complain about liberals and humanism and how, to paraphrase, how dare you base your views on education and science and not the Bible, or something like that. And then they read out these comments that they got, like at the start of this live stream they were doing. This second comment is just gross to me.
Actually, right before we hopped on the live, sometimes there's little conversations going, and this isn't like, I mean, I like seeing conversations happening with differing viewpoints, but I did think this one was interesting. And Morgan, I don't think you even saw this yet.
Yeah, having children and then neglecting them is selfish. It's not selfish to not have children if you know you're not going to be good parents. Let people have pets instead. It's none of the people's business. Well, the person right below him said it's selfish because you could change and be a good parent instead.
It's absolutely not that simple at all. Some people are not cut out to be parents, and that's absolutely okay. Being a parent is not an easy task. It's not easy to be a good parent. It's not even easy to be a mediocre parent. And that's why I have a hell of a lot of respect for the people who can and do it. But that doesn't mean I should have to do it myself. I also have a lot of respect for people who are bin men, or lifeguards, or firefighters, but that doesn't mean I should go out and do it myself. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person if I don't do those jobs. I know I don't have the skills to do those things, so I'm not going to do them. I know I don't have the skills to be a parent, so I'm not going to do it. This response of, you could change and be a good parent instead, is so immature and naive. How is a person supposed to just change magically because you want them to? Are they going to magically acquire new skills overnight? Are they going to magically acquire the finances it takes to raise a kid for the next 18 years? Are they going to magically lose any health problems they have? Are they going to magically make sure that they don't pass on any health problems genetically to their kids? Are they going to magically alter their own personality overnight to just change? It's absolutely ridiculous to assume that people can or should do that.
That's what I thought was so interesting. This person is pretty much saying it's selfish because if you know you're not going to be a good parent. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's just literally putting yourself in this box of, I mean, it really is victimhood.
No, it's not at all. It's called being a responsible adult, which I know Paul knows nothing about, but maybe we can educate him a little bit. It's about understanding yourself and your own responsibilities and what it actually takes to be a parent, and not just jumping into potentially ruining someone's life because some smug man-child on YouTube tells me I'm selfish if I don't. I'm not a victim for saying I will not be a good enough parent. Would I also be playing a victim if I said, you know what, I have no experience with running, and when I have done it before, I haven't been very good at it. I have hip problems, so you know what? I don't think I'm going to try and be a sprinter in the Olympic Games. I don't think I'm qualified for that. I don't think I'm very good for it. I'm not going to try out. Is that also playing the victim in Paul's eyes? You know what? Why don't I just change and get good at running? No, I know my limits, I know my skills, and it's not in running, and it's not in parenting. Actually, you know what, Paul? I just had this feeling actually that you should be a synchronized swimmer, and I'd actually really like to see you perform in the Olympics, and I think it's really selfish that you're not doing that. You could just change and become a good synchronized swimmer. You know, it's actually a bigger risk if you don't synchronize swim than if you do. I mean, if you don't compete, you might regret it. Wait, what do you mean you can't swim? Well, that's just playing the victim. That's disgusting. I think you're being very selfish right now. I want to see you do synchronized swimming, so you should.
Yeah. I mean, how many people could say that about literally anything? I know I'm not going to be a good wife, so I'm never getting married. I know I'm not going to be a good husband, okay? But how many people actually think like that? They don't. Or I know I'm not going to be a good employee, so I'm never going to work. Like, that just is a goofy train of thought.
I know she's criticizing people here, but like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I actually think it's really important that if you don't feel you're ready for a relationship, if you don't feel you'll be a good partner, don't get into a relationship. It's a really mature thing to wait until you're ready. It's very important that you don't commit to someone that you know you aren't compatible with and you can't fulfill their needs for them. And if you know that you're not ready for a relationship in general, it's very important you don't commit to them, and vice versa as well, you know? If they can't fulfill your needs, it's important you don't commit. But this is what Paul and Morgan do, isn't it? They advocate for jumping into marriage young and early and having lots of babies without thinking about it. This is what their whole channel is about. They're like, yes, do it, like us, because we did it, so you should too. And then when they see someone like me who's happy and content and fulfilled because I've waited and I don't want kids, and I'm successful by myself and I'm happy by myself, and now I'm dating someone absolutely wonderful and lovely because I waited to find the right person, I didn't just jump into marriage with the first person who came along. They don't understand that, so they lash out at it and they call it names and they say, oh, that's sad and worrisome, when what they really mean is, oh, it worked for you. Maybe I'm a little bit jealous. They don't understand it, so they're scared of it and they lash out. And I mean, this whole like relationship thing she's going on as well, you can say the same thing for her like job analogy as well. Like, I'm not someone who's very good at sport, and as I've said before, I have a lot of problems with my hips and stuff. So I knew not to pursue a career in sport because because like genetically and physically that wouldn't work out well. 2, I don't have the interest. And 3, I don't have the skills. And I have no desire to develop any skills. Is that a goofy train of thought and I should have just pursued a career path that isn't right for me anyway, just because I could? Mature adults are self-aware and they understand their own skills and their own limitations, and they know which of those limitations can be improved on and which can't, which would be a waste of time and effort and which would be enjoyable and fun and beneficial to improve. Sometimes those skills and limitations apply to parenting, and that is okay. Making someone waste time on a skill that they don't have and have no desire to develop for no real benefit to themselves just because you think they should is a selfish, naive attitude.
I would say wisdom, in my perspective, would be you don't get married if you feel like you're going to be a bad, which I think some people just use that as an excuse. I just am not very good with kids. I just don't think I'm going to be. But it's like, if you know I am just horrible and completely unqualified to be a parent, why are you pursuing a relationship? Why are you getting married?
That's interesting.
Okay, crazy little thing here, Paul. Maybe it's because I'm not looking for a relationship with a child. I don't want children in my life, but I do enjoy the company of adults. I do enjoy romantic bonds with people. I do enjoy sex with people. I do enjoy building a life with someone. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a connection like that. I'm not looking to have kids in my life. So the fact that I can want a relationship and marriage but not kids, well, marriage is up in the air. Yeah. So the fact I can not want children in my life and want a relationship is possible because I'm not in a relationship with a child. I'm in a relationship with an adult. And I know this is difficult for someone like Paul to understand because he treats all women as children. But yeah, it turns out that other adults are very different to children. You have a very different relationship with them. And it is possible to have one type of relationship without the other. crazy, I know. Like, is he seriously suggesting that I and others like me shouldn't be allowed to experience love and intimacy and building a life with someone unless we also plan on bringing children into the world? Do you know how ridiculous that is? Thankfully, Morgan actually starts to talk a bit of sense here, and I'll be honest, this is one of the first times I've ever seen her straight up contradict Paul, so I actually really applaud her for doing that. I'm loving the confidence in her in this part, but Paul's face as she does it is terrifying. He's clearly not happy about it. Look at the way he like clenches his jaw, looks away. Paul's a scary man, I'll be honest. I don't necessarily agree with the like God part of this next stuff, but I agree with her sentiment, and yeah, good on Morgan for saying this.
Because, you know, there are people, well, I don't think that everyone is called to be a parent. But that begs the question, yeah, are they then called to be married? And I think that there are plenty of married couples out there who are doing God's work, who do not have kids, who either just felt the Lord very seriously call them to not have children and focus on a ministry of whether that's going to an orphanage and serving there in Africa, and they couldn't do that with kids or whatever.
Sadly, though, I disagree with the next part, so it's not all good.
I think there are those circumstances, but I think more so than not, it's just people deciding, I don't want to have kids and I'm going to live my life. And that becomes very selfish. Like, it's a selfish life when all you are doing is living for yourself and not pouring into something else and someone else.
Yeah, this bit I thoroughly disagree with as well. But also, like, I don't think it's wrong to be a little bit selfish sometimes. I don't think it's wrong to put yourself first in your own life, because as long as you're doing, you know, a net amount of good in the world, why shouldn't you enjoy yourself sometimes? And you can't do good for other people unless you're taking care of yourself. If you don't prioritize your mental and physical health, how can you do anything for other people? If you don't have fun and enjoy yourself and make sure you're happy, how can you properly make sure other people are fulfilled and happy too? For me, not having kids means that I can focus more of my time on my work, which I do think helps other people. I try and make sure my videos are educational and empowering, and I try and give people like resources that let them learn stuff and figure things out about themselves and hopefully make them feel accepted and comfortable. I spend a lot of time raising money for, like, you know, Battersea, where I adopted Kyra from. In the past, I've like done work in animal shelters and for charities and all sorts of stuff like that. And I don't think I could continue to do all that if I had kids. So I think the way I do the most good in the world is by not having children, because I'm not cut out for kids. So I use my skills in other ways to benefit more people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if I also want to use my time to, you know, have fun and travel the world and go to gigs and create art and take photos and, you know, play with my dog, why shouldn't I? I don't think it's wrong to take care of myself and have fun sometimes at all. And it's not wrong for anyone else to either. Not having kids does not mean I'm only living for myself. It means I'm living for everything else except children. And that's a big distinction that I don't think a lot of people like Paul and Morgan understand. And then they go on to talk about how dangerous it is for people, especially women, to feel happy and fulfilled in their own lives because reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think we've gotten into a lifestyle in the world that we live in now that's just really all about self and whatever makes you happy, whatever fills you up, whatever, you know, makes you feel like you're on top of the world pursuing all your dreams. If anything's going to get in the way of that, you knock it out. So women, be feminists, don't have husbands, and you do whatever you want on your own. And families, you don't need to have kids, husband and wife. Like, you guys just pursue your jobs, your careers, just love one another. That's it. That's all you need to do. And that's just dangerous to me, and it's sad. It's a sad life to me. Like, babies are precious. Children are precious. They're our future. Like, we can't carry this world on without them.
And then Morgan says this.
I do think it is weird because we've maybe mentioned this before, but like when it comes to abortion, that's such a like accepted thing in this world right now and has been for a while. But if you hear about a dog or an owner threw the puppies in a river. Like, it's on all mainstream media. People are freaking out, wanting to find that person and put them in prison.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, wait, but where is that when you heard that the woman delivered her baby and threw it in the river? Like, where is that outrage?
If you're delivering the baby and then throwing it, the outrage comes.
Okay, but where's the outrage when abortion is happening every day, all of the time, all over this country, this world? Yeah. It's just very strange to me and concerning.
And it's a product, I think, of, I would almost call it indoctrination from just a secular humanistic perspective that tries to push that this is actually a loving thing.
Which again is ridiculous. Tell me you know nothing about abortion and fetal development without telling me you know nothing about abortion and fetal development. Removing a handful of cells from your uterus is not the same as drowning sentient conscious puppies. Drowning a baby is the same as drowning a puppy. Removing a bundle of cells from your uterus is not the same as drowning a puppy. Now, if those puppies were only alive because they were feeding off someone else's body, living inside someone else's body like a parasite, that would be different. But they're not. Anyway, this isn't an abortion debate. This is a people should be able to choose whether they have kids or not debate. It's not even a debate. Can you imagine if I sat here and made a whole video about how it's really, really bad for anyone to have kids ever? If I went on like an anti-natalist rant, like, can you imagine that? For all the arguments I make about like overpopulation and stuff like that, I still would never take away anyone else's right to have a child if they wanted to. Like, not at all. It's a very, very personal choice, and who am I or anyone to say what someone else's family should be? To decide if they want to have kids or not. Like, it's not my place, it's not anyone else's place. If Paul and Morgan can sit there and call me selfish and say that, like, essentially say that I should be forced to have children, and if not, I'm a terrible person and all this stuff, like, then it would be the equivalent of me saying to them, well, I don't think you should have children at all. In fact, like, oh, I'm gonna call you selfish for having your baby. I'm like, and that would be horrible, wouldn't it? Can you imagine if I sat there and, like, you know, said all that same stuff about their own pregnancy? It would be revolting. And I don't think they realise that they're doing the same thing to people like me. And it's absolutely not okay. Anyway, this is where I'm going to end this today. I guess the final note I want to end on is just like a reminder to people that what you do with your body is completely your own choice. And that it is okay to be selfish on occasions. And that what you choose to do with your own life is your own choice. And there's no right or wrong, there's no one path you should be following, there's no timeline you have to stick to. You just figure it out for yourself and do what's right for you. And that's okay. Please don't let people like Paul and Morgan or the Pope, regardless of your religious stance or anything like that, please don't let them make you feel like you have to do something that isn't right for you. Don't let them shame you into that. It's really, really important that we have these conversations and make sure that child-free people like myself know that our decision is completely valid and okay, and often the right decision for us. And no one else can tell us otherwise. It's something we have to figure out for ourselves. I don't know if I'm just rambling at this point, but yeah, that's where I'm going to end this. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate you watching a hell of a lot, and yeah, I'll see you again soon.